Good afternoon, Australia, and good evening, America. You're back on Radio Toni, and this is the Everyday Business Show, and I'm your host, Toni Lontis. In the background, all the way from the Philippines, we have the gorgeous Payo waiting online for your comments, questions, and to send you links if you need them. We are expecting that you will ask lots of questions, and we encourage you to do so, and Payo will be able to answer you whilst I'm live online. Don't forget to jump onto radiotoni.com, as you will find all the information about our amazing guests and links to their information if you're listening to this while driving in the car. I have an amazing guest today, and I'm so glad that Nicci can be with us. Now, Nicci is the CEO of Exaptec. Now, I'm not sure if I've pronounced this because I keep going to say expect, and it's not, but I'm going to clarify that with Nicci in a minute. Nicci founded the startup company in 2015 to provide service robotic solutions to the Australian marketplace. She's passionate about applying innovative technology such as artificial intelligence and automation to improve the work-life balance and wellness by removing repetitive and boring work, which I love already. She's provided numerous robotic telepresence solutions to educational facilities, businesses, and to augment communication and movement for disabled and incapacitated people. Nicci believes that a well-designed application of robotics will lead to the emergence of new business models that will change the way people work and play for the better. And I have to absolutely agree with that. Noted as one of the 6 women who rock robotics in Australia and a regular speaker at events, Nicci is a passionate educator about how robotics can augment your life for the better. The company is Westpac's 2018 Top Businesses of Tomorrow winners, a winner of the episode 2 of the Startup Show, Season 2 in 2018, and also one of the 4 companies representing Australia at the International Cultural Fair in Shanghai 2019. Nicci is also noted as the top 30 women you need to know in robotics in 2020. And this global recognition, and Nicci has one of the women in Australia to be awarded this accolade. Good morning and welcome to the show, Nicci.
Hi, Toni. Good morning and good afternoon to our listeners. And thanks so much for having me.
I've been really excited about this upcoming interview for a number of weeks because I am just fascinated about robotics, AI, tech, and how all of those things combine to make our lives and work-life balance better. But it didn't start there for you, Nicci, and I'm wondering if we can take our listeners on a bit of a journey that led you to this point in time where you're CEO, a woman leading a robotics company.
Yeah, sure, Toni. So my husband and I are immigrants to Australia. We've lived here for 26 years. Absolutely beautiful country, and I'm so happy to have been afforded the privilege of being a citizen here now. Part of our journey, about 10 years ago, my husband and I were involved in another company. It was also a startup, an agile consultancy company called Tabo, which is still going in Australia now. And we were doing workplace happiness conferences. And one of these events that I was the part organizer, we wanted international guests to be able to attend. So a guy from American, a lady from New Zealand, and we were looking around at what sort of technology could we have that would be, a little bit groundbreaking, a little bit out there. And we found the double robot, and we imported one and we used it at the day, and it was such a great success that we promptly bought 15 more, as you do, because that's what you do.
Oh my goodness.
And I sold them. And my husband, in his foresight, very, very smart man, in 2015, I woke up and he said, "Now listen here, this is now your company," and it's actually Exaptec. So, but please, we have a lot of it's a tongue twister, and had we known it, we would have just said ABC robots. But anyway, so just make it easy for people. But anyway, so Exaptec was born in 2015, and Anton said to me, "Yeah, you are now the recipient of this company. Go forth and do what you need to do."
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Well, you can say that again, because you know, I don't have a technical background. I always hesitate to say that because the emphasis isn't on that, because, you know, I don't think you necessarily need a technical background. And I think a little bit in the first 2 years, my idea of running a company was, if I get an email, because it was such a niche market, you know, like the market that I deal in robotics is personal assistive robotics, and it's really niche. And I still find myself, when people ask me what I do and I explain it, I have to go into like very basic, what a telepresence robot is to, and, you know, once I've explained it, they know what it is, but most people still don't know what it is.
Ah, okay. So, you handed this company in 2015, and I know that there were some monumental challenges that you were faced with and had to deal with. Can you talk us through that, Nicci?
Look, Toni, where do I begin? Okay, so we started 2015, and we're going. Well, I'm going along with this company. In the process, I'm still busy with Chabo, because we still had shares in the company, and I was still the business manager there. You know, and I've got 2 kids and Anton, and life goes on. So in 2018, which was actually quite a big year, because I went on a startup program, the Collider, that Queensland QUT. I was one of the recipients of this, that I could go on it, and so that was absolutely fantastic, because it was a 3-month course, exposed to people doing marketing, business analysis, like all sorts of things, and it was an eye-opener for me. I was the oldest person, the oldest woman there, and there was a 17-year-old, so like the dichotomy between the two of us. Of course, best friend Scott Miller, and he's doing exceptionally well as well, but I just, you know, it was just funny, the younger guy and the older woman. But anyway, like a lot of life lessons learned there. So I did that, and it was exceptionally good for the business, and also just broadening my horizons in terms of how you actually run a company. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they start and they go, you know, you're just going to run a company, but there's actually quite a lot to be aware of and across. And as you know yourself, like there are lots of little bits and pieces that need to be, you know, and being entrepreneurs in a startup, like we didn't have like 20 staff members, you know, like you, the chief cook, bottle washer, and you do basically everything. So that was quite an introduction. So anyway, I did the startup program. I actually absolutely loved it. But as I said, like 2018 was like a big year. Anton, my husband, he committed suicide that year as well. So
which was a huge,
pretty rough,
huge thing to walk through. I know, Nicci, that we've talked briefly about this before, and when we were talking about coming and interviewing you live, you were not so much reluctant, but I wanted to be very sensitive in discussing this subject, because the impact of suicide on the family, the wife, the company, it's monumental. You have to keep going in the space where you're dealing with something that is incredibly traumatic and for which nothing could prepare you. How on earth did you manage to keep going at that time, Nicci?
You know, Toni, I think back of the year, and it's actually a bit of a blur, to be honest with you. I've actually listened to some of your other guests, so I know like some of your other guests have had a similar journey, and it's been absolutely horrific. You know, the stats in Australia around suicide is 8 a day, so 6 men and 2 women, and you know, it's you know, I was thinking this morning on my way to the office, you know, I knew we were going to be chatting about this, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, today someone's life is going to be irrevocably changed by a suicide that they're going to experience. So I don't think there's anything that prepares you for this, and I think the grief of a suicide. Look, people die. You know, we expect this. We know people are going to die, and you expect you know, if it's an average, or I don't say average, but an average lifespan, like
Yes.
70 or 80, like, and we expect it, and
Yes.
you deal with it then, because you go, look, yeah, this person's had a good life. Yeah. I think when someone close to you, like especially a spousal suicide, it's dreadful. Like, I know there are no words that can prepare you for it. And how, honestly, I look how I went on. You know, you get up and you one day, you take one day at a time, was my philosophy at the time. And I've also got children. So, you know, I think, I think that, that became an anchor and sort of a mainstay for me is, look, I've got children. I hate to say this, like, if it wasn't for that, I possibly could have just asked stuff at all, because, you know, I'm not responsible for someone else. And I'm sure a lot of people that I've gone through what I would call suicide survivors, I don't call them victims, I call them survivors. They would all go through this journey of, you know, oh, this is just, it's in the too hard basket. But yeah, look, I probably
Anton was battling a little bit, wasn't he? But it was still unexpected.
Oh, completely. Look, I mean, when you're quite right when you say he was battling, he had a medical condition, so he was in ongoing pain, which, you know, in retrospect, I think we completely underestimated. So to any listeners out there, if you're dealing with an ongoing pain management issue, please, don't underestimate what it can do to you mentally. And if someone in your family is dealing with it, don't underestimate it. Like, you'll be making a grave mistake if you underestimate it. And I think maybe, you know, looking back, that was probably a trigger for Anton, that he just went, look, combined with not feeling great, some other, you know, I don't think they're immigrants to a country that haven't actually dealt with depression. I've yet to meet an immigrant that hasn't gone, has this been worth it, what we've sacrificed to go to another country? So I'm extremely grateful.
Huge life-changing to move from one country and your family and your life as you know it to a completely different country. Again, we sometimes underestimate that is massive, and we need to remember that is a massive shift.
Yeah, I think look, number one, you know, if you speak to any host countries, I'd call Australia a host country to me. You know, if we don't really mention these things, because I think, you know, we think, Australians would think, well, why did you come here? You know, like, you could have stayed in the country. And it's not just South Africans, it's like a multitude of nations, because, you know, Australia is not really multicultural. I've sort of seen it in the 26 years. So I think it's a bit rich of us to, you know, as immigrants, to expect that our host countries have to be more sensitive. Why should they? Like, we're the ones coming here, you know. So there's a bit of a, you know, yin and yang in my philosophy about this. But I am particularly sensitive to immigrants, because I know the journeys that they're going through, you know, and you've given up a lot. And yes, it has been your decision to do it. And, you know, for other some people are escaping war-torn countries, and that's not really a decision anymore. You know, you need to get away to stay safe. You know, for us, I think for my Anton and myself, it was, we've got two sons, and we wanted a different life for them that was offered in South Africa. So, but I do think amongst, and I'm not sure if studies have been done about this, but certainly with immigrants, you know, like the depression rate and the suicide rate would be another subcategory of that. So, yeah, it is challenging. But again, as I said, I'm so grateful to be living in this wonderful country. It's afforded us opportunities that we would never have had in South Africa. So, yes, I know I don't sound Australian, but I am very Australian.
Oh, I love that accent. I love that accent. Just, Nicci, I do want to recognise that we still don't look after our men in terms of mental health very well. And men have that propensity to die before asking for help. And we need to change that. And having talked to you quite a bit about this, I'm really very appreciative that you've been open with us discussion today about losing Anton and his suicide. And for anyone who's listening, again, I just encourage you, there is lots of help out there, but you do need to recognize that you need to ask for it. You need to talk to someone. You need to actually recognize that there are wonderful, caring, supportive, amazing people that will help you get through that horrible blackness that you feel. And I know from my own battle with depression that you just want the pain and blackness to stop. You just want it to end. And that occupies your complete and entire thought process. And if you just let someone in and just have a little conversation with someone, I am feeling really, really bad. I need some help. And sometimes
Yeah,
that's all it takes.
I agree with you, Toni. I think it starts with this concept that we raise our boys with "boys don't cry." Like, I don't know where this ridiculous saying came from. I've got two sons, and I reflect on their life growing up, and I hope I never said to them, "Boys don't cry," because I just think it's such a stupid thing to say to someone. If you hurt, of course you're going to cry. You're a human being. Of course, if I pinch you, it's going to hurt you. If you cut yourself, it's going to, like, why would you say don't cry? How are you going to express your emotion?
And men have deep emotions. It's not just women, it's just that we are gifted with a better ability to discuss those deep emotions, whereas men, we need to give men permission to cry and have deep emotions and to be able to create a safe space where they can talk about those deep emotions. And particularly for people suffering with long-term pain, again, it is something that debilitates your mind, because it's the first thing you wake up thinking about and the last thing you think about going to sleep, that there's this pain and it just won't go away and you just want it to stop. And it leads to that sequence of there's no way out, I just want it to stop. Nicci, thank you so much for talking about Anton. I do really want to know, in the aftermath of Anton and the company, how you started to grow the company in the space where it was so dark and difficult. The boys were younger, and it was a terrible time for you, but you still managed to get through that and keep growing this wonderful robotics company.
Well, Toni, like what's that saying? Every cloud has a dark cloud has a silver lining. So I have to say I was on the verge of closing the company and just walking away when I was approached by robotics, an Israeli company, to find out if I wanted to be their distributor of Temi, the telepresence robot. So
it's really so cute, that one.
I know, and I said, well, why not? Like, what else am I doing? But one of their prerequisites for working with me was they wanted to meet me in person. So in the same year of Anton's death, the December, I flew to Israel and I met with Yossi Wolf, the then CEO, who's now the chairman, and his team. And it was an amazing, absolutely amazing experience. I don't know if you've been to Israel, but it was...
no, it's on my bucket list.
It was just a life-changing experience for me. So it gave me something to grasp onto and hold on to. And
thank God.
Yeah, after meeting them and then deciding... despite not being very technical, I had very strong other skills, as Yossi put it to me. I became their distributor. And look, 2019 was, the Temi arrived here in about April, and I started marketing it, and it's been an absolutely superb product. It's, in my opinion, one of the best telepresence robots on the market that you can find today. It's hardware, software, it's superior. So I'm so happy that I backed their horse and they backed me in turn, because it's a very mutually beneficial relationship. They're extremely supportive in terms of any support that I need, and not just myself, but any of their distributors across the world. And then last year when smack bang when COVID hit, I became the distributor for the QT robot, which is a little robot that deals with children that have autism. It's an assistive robot. So again, I was ready to get out there and go, and COVID hit, so my little QT arrived, and I'm actually in my office now. So for any of the viewers watching this,
I can see them in the background,
and they're all in the background. So so QT works with children, an amazing little robot helping children, just to be able to cope with the world a little bit better, because they have enough challenges. So there's an emotional curriculum that takes you through, if someone's smiling, if they're frowning, like early stages, and it's got about 70 hours of material that a therapist, the robot, and the child, it's a three-way workout that happens. So again, like these robots, what they're able to do and mean for children, with people with disabilities, that's what makes me really excited and passionate.
Yeah. Nicci, for our audience, we often think about robots in terms of how they're portrayed in movies. And I'm really curious to explore how amazing robots are. And so it's more than a computer system. It's a computer system. It's got artificial intelligence. It's got moving parts. The creations that we can look forward to in the future are particularly exciting around robotics, aren't they?
Oh, look, I agree with you. If you'd spoken to me before I got into the industry, if you spoke about a robot, I probably thought of Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, "I'll be back," in Terminator. But, typically, I know, I'll be back. It's quite cool. I liked it. Anyway.
It's good, isn't it?
Look, typically robots are there two categories. It's industrial robots, and then it's personal robots. So under personal robots would be robots such as telepresence robots, social robots, which I've got some in my office here, or QT, which is assistive robots, so with someone with like autism. And robotics, the robotics uptake in Australia hasn't been all that great. Out of 38 countries, we're about 35th in our adoption rate. So there's a whole criteria.
We're a bit slow.
We're a little bit slow, and it's a pity, because it will come back to bite us in the butt.
Yes.
But in particular, the robots that I deal with, so the telepresence, of which the Temi is now a really good example. It's Alexa integrated, so you can order a pizza from. Yes.
I was going to say, Nicci, they have the capacity to add apps or programs to the individual robot, is my understanding, so that you can personalize, if that's the right word.
That's exactly right, Toni. You understand it right. So Temi has got the ability for, for instance, some of my clients use Temi as a personal assistant, so meet and greet in the offices. And this particular company was software developers, so in no time they had the Temi, and the Temi was meeting and greeting. So when the receptionist went on lunch, the Temi was there. So when you walked in, you went on screen and you said, "You're here to see X, Y, and Z." The Temi would call that person and say, "Peter's here to come and see you," and the Temi would take them there. So like phenomenal capabilities.
Yeah. And also with that, when we're thinking about telepresence, my background is in health, and I've seen the rise of the telepresence where doctors can consult remotely, they can operate remotely using some of these robotic technologies, which is just brilliantly amazing for the life in the future. Some of the other, we've talked a little bit about the service robots and how they help. Do you see that some of those service robots will evolve to be able to do quite extensive care for individual people? So from, the lifting, the moving, those sorts of things. Do you see that happening in the not too distant future, Nicci?
It's already happening in Japan. Japan's one of the top users of robotics. Their per capita 10,000 is about 700 robots. So Japan's got an aging population, so they're very much using assistive robotics for lifting people out of beds. And so, yes, I do see it. Again, Australia's got 27 million people, so you have to put it into context. Yes, China's got 1.4 billion people, so their adoption rate of robots is far, far higher than us, and they've got a massive push towards an integration of, by 2025, they want to be known as the robotic country in the world, which I think they're well on track to doing.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so Japan, South Korea, these are all countries that they high adopters of robotics and how they use robotics. I certainly, in Australia, with the advent of COVID, that certainly pushed robotics to the forefront. So doctors and hospitals are using the TEMI now to consult because of all the personal protective gear. They don't need that. They can go up to a patient. So I'm not for one moment suggesting this is the first port of call, but for a second or a third consult, they can use a telepresence robot.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. So those medical-based robots, I'm guessing that they've got quite extensive capability that might extend to basic diagnostics in time.
Well, look, there's the AI capability of it. So Watson strike rate with actually correctly diagnosing breast cancer, it's phenomenal. It's really high. It's something like
much higher than a human.
Yes, of course. Now it's in consultation with the doctor as well. But if that's artificial, because they're looking at thousands upon thousands upon thousands of scans, and they can find them. So it's the machine learning. So in conjunction, I always think robotics is in conjunction with the humans. It's never, unless you're talking about complete automation in a factory where they're putting cars together, there's still humans involved there. But in medical terms, if you look at, for instance, the Da Vinci robot, which is an assistive robot, there are 5,000 of them in the world at the moment, of which about 83 are in Australia.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And
gosh, I can remember when that first came into operating theatres. I was still in operating theatres when they were first introduced, and there was fear and all the rest of it, but to know that growth, so that growth in that particular robot for that particular surgery, that's amazing, Nicci.
Look, it's I've got a Let's Talk Robotics podcast, and I spoke to Professor Paul Bannon about it because he heads up the institute in Sydney to do all the training. And so you would know, being a nurse, that the nurses, they've got their basic training and then they're actually trained to work with the robots. You can't just go in there. There's a further education path.
Right.
And basically they're doing operations with these robots that humans can't do. Like if you couldn't go in as a human being. Yes.
The preciseness of their ability to do something that humans can't actually improves the outcomes for the patients. I forget the numbers, but it really makes a huge difference because the robot is doing that precise surgery versus a human, and the likelihood of human error. It's just improved their health outcomes phenomenally.
Yeah, look, and it's your time in hospital, because the less invasive the operation is, so the more precise, less bleeding, less recovery. So the turnaround of students, patients being in hospital is far less than you would normally have it.
Less money,
That's it. Yeah, like the flow and effect of having this. Now, I know a lot of people, when I speak to them, just broadly speaking, when I go and do chats and other roboticists that I deal with, people are, the robots going to take our jobs and this, that. Look, they can't take everything
ever.
No, there is a certain amount of.
They can make our lives and our life work balance so much better. And you're right, they're never going to take over the world as portrayed in the Hollywood movies, because at the end of the day, there still needs to be that human interaction to program them, all those sorts of things, and particularly around healthcare, the doctors will always have the end say, but their capability in making our life better, having better outcomes, uh, better recovery rates for cancer of any description, where you can have a robot that does precise surgery to remove whatever it is that needs removing. That's a great outcome for humanity, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, definitely, Tony. And I mean, there's a company in Melbourne called Swoop Aero that delivers medicine in drones. Drones are made and built in Port Melbourne, and it's all over the world that these drones fly and they deliver emergency medicine. So again, a great example of what robotic solutions can do.
Do you see a crossover with what's happening in the drone sphere and the robotic sphere in a sort of a combination? Because drones, you think flying aircraft type situation; robots, you think something quite different. But is there a crossover between drone and robotic development in combination with AI?
Yeah, well, a drone is considered a form of a robot. So that's how you view it. They're classed as a robot as well. And drones are being used to inspect electricity assets. So when people can't get up now, they're using drones to do that. If you're looking at Melbourne Waterways inspects their water pipes with drones. So in India, typically about 5 people are lost a week by inspecting sewerage pipes, and now having adopted drones, their fatality rate is just all but disappeared because they're using this technology now. So look, I think using, as humans, what we want to focus on is using robots for good. Like, obviously there's always the possibility that things can be used for bad reasons, but but we want to focus on being good. So you don't want armed drones flying around. That's certainly not what we want in our futures.
Nicci, the company is obviously going really, really well at the moment, and I see that continuing. In 2020, there was a number of really good accolades for you in the company, and you were recognised, as the one to watch from Robotics Research Online. Platform called the Robo Hub. You were recognised by Innovative Robotics Solutions Providers as a top 5 company. What do these accolades mean to you, firstly, as a woman in a non-traditional realm, i.e. robotics? Does that give you further strength to keep going with what you're doing?
Toni, and thank you for mentioning my accolades. You know what?
They're phenomenal.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
We don't celebrate them enough, and we do not celebrate enough women who are working in the technical fields. We should be shouting from the rooftops, because
they've got enough challenges.
Yes.
Well, I prior to COVID, we were Gartner Symposium's robotic solution, and it's predominantly a male event, Gartner, that's the host up in the Gold Coast. And I remember more than one guy, because I'd be standing next to my robots, and I remember more than one man coming to me and sort of looking me up and down and going, do you work for the company? I go, no, this is my company. I have to say, the slide, I was always waiting for it though. So at the end, I just decided to be,
as a woman, that's really, I find that funny, and I just it's my company. Like, I can't think of anything more empowering to respond with.
Well, I did have a little moment of, yes, this is my company, so off you go. No, not that you're probably earning more money than I am, but that's not the point. It's my company. So look, it has been, the 30 Women to Watch has been an absolutely enormous accolade, because it's predominantly highly academic women that are recognized in this field. And my fellow Australian is doing amazing work as well. So, yes, it has been really a particular, yes, it has made things
good.
It's a good word. That's a good way to put it. So, and otherwise, you know, as I said,
it's still a struggle though for CEO women in areas like robotics and tech, and I've got a number of female friends in mining and construction, and there's still that, oh, you work for the company, or oh, you're, you know, there's still not that recognition that women can do things, that we do have technical brains and we do have that capacity to run things. And obviously, you've learnt lots over your time with robotics, but you started with no specific robotic education or understanding, did you? You started right at with nothing and have scaled up from there.
Yeah, you're right, Toni. Like my formal education, I did a business diploma and after school, and then I went and did law. I was in my third year, and due to just financial constraints, always meaning to go back and finish it, but you know, life happened. I got married, and Anton, you know, like, you know, I just put my support behind him, and it's not a decision I ever regretted. But no, I didn't. You're quite right. Anton was the technocrat. He was exceptionally bright and gifted in the area. And, you know, I always thought, look, what I don't know. I do recall the first time I sat in the office and I was reading the stuff, and I'm going, I had to read it 10 times, I have to be honest, before I suddenly went, okay, I think I'm beginning to sort of suss out what the hell this means. It's so what, like, you can read, I can understand it, and if I have to read it 10 times to understand it, well, what's the big deal?
So be it.
Yeah, you know, I do. Look, in years 7 and 8, there's a paper to support this. This is where it's the crux for girls that decide whether they go into STEM or humanities, and it's the girls are equally smart or not even smarter than guys with STEM subjects at that age. Like there's the evidence to support that they outperform the boys. It's when they start making decisions, do you want to go down a STEM career or like STEM subjects or the humanities? And then they look where the cohort goes. And if their friends go to humanities, that's where they tend to go. So this is actually where I go, you know, and I speak to a lot of my female guests on my podcast that are all in the robotics field. And this is the crucial juncture where you need a career advisor that says to the girls, listen,
have you thought about this?
Do STEM, because your career options probably triple as opposed to humanities. The money triples. If you decide you're going on a STEM career and you don't want to do it, you can flip into humanities, but you can't vice versa. Once you've gone down the humanities, if you've got no STEM subjects, for you to go,
that's right,
I want to go into STEM, it makes it 20 times harder. So if I had girls, my advice would be to them, even if you didn't like maths, even if you struggle, practice. You need maths. You need either science or you need a biology. You need 2 STEM subjects when you finish year 12. Would be my advice to all parents listening there, regardless of what your children are telling you. Do not underestimate how important this is for their future career possibilities. And
because that's where we're headed as humanity. The jobs and the emerging technology will be in STEM, is my understanding.
Definitely. Look, and I was speaking to Dr. Amanda Capel, she's a guest, and Victoria has just released a roadmap for STEM from primary school to high school and then universities, where you can go for what assistance, what resources are out there. And I think that all the states should have this, just as a matter of, you know, that every classroom should have this for girls to look at and go, okay, here's my STEM path. This is how I do it. Here are organizations and resources that I can tap into to help me on my way. And no one ever says everything's easy, but so what? Like, you know, just you have to keep a bigger picture in mind here.
Yeah, yeah. Nicci, what is your favorite robot in your robotics range? Now, just before I'd let Nicci answer this, now, so Nicci's company has telepresence, service, social, and STEM robots. So she has a whole range of these robots. So I'm curious to know, what's your favorite robot and why?
Oh, Toni, that's tough. Can I have two? Be nice. I've got so many. I need to have two.
You can have two.
Look, under the category of telepresence, because like I have to
Yes.
tell the audience, you know, in Australia at any given day, there's 60,000 children that don't go to school for whatever reason. So it could be they've got cancer.
Yes.
They've got like other issues that they've just long ongoing issues that they can't go to school, and they actually need a way to go to school. So these type of robots, these telepresence robots, are actually being used in Australia now. And I deal with an organisation, Canteen, that buys my products to support children that have cancer. So I have to go, the telepresence, like the Temi, is by far the best one, because you know, people with disabilities, it's got a tray, it can move around, you can map it, it can go unassisted in your house, you can on your phone go, you can dial in and go, let the Temi go to the kitchen, and you can see, why isn't your elderly mama answering the phone? Well, she's stuck on the floor. You know, like, it's amazing. It's amazing what this technology can do. And then, of course, the QT, because working with children with autism, you know, like I go, how cool is this? Like, making such a difference in children's development as they grow up, and in facing a challenging world. Let's face it, it's challenging for them. So
often those kids with autism have superpowers in other areas.
yes.
And that's exciting to know that in the future we might look at a diagnosis of autism completely differently because of some of the technology and interactions and AI that we're making use of at the moment. And they may be responsible for solving some of the big questions of humanity in the future. Nicci, before we run out of time, I want to know some of your big visions and big plans in the next 5 years.
Oh, Toni, 5 years.
I know, that's a long time in robotics.
Like, listen, look, I hope in 5 years' time that robotics is recognised as its own industry. At the moment, it's under manufacturing in Australia. So we're busy with the robotics roadmap 2020. So if our listeners, if they're interested in that, there's a 2018 roadmap that's available on the internet, and we're finalising the 2021 now. Just because of COVID, it's just got a little bit behind schedule. So I certainly hope that the adoption rate in Australia will be higher, and people embrace robotics more and aren't so afraid of it. And it's part of, I see it as part of my ongoing education, dealing with the robots that I do, to say to people, this is assistive technology. Like, yes, there will be automation. You know, we will at some point have driverless cars. It's not, I don't see it in the next.
That's exciting for me.
Well, it is exciting, but
so
it's going to disrupt some industries, you know, like truck driving. You know, there is going to be disruption, but there's enough leeway. There's enough time to let people know, listen, there's going to be disruption. Change your career if you need to. So, and if closer to 5 years' time, I'm hoping someone's going to buy my fabulous company so I can go and retire.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you're listening, phone me.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, and I think in the mental health being space, Toni, like I think you know, I think I've got some work to do there still. Just
I really think that there's scope for that interaction between robotics, AI, and I know a number of my friends are working in that AI health app development arena, and I think that combination of software in combination with the hardware of robotics, that's exciting. That's exciting for mental health and the capacity to be able to help someone in a really a deep time of need, as well as helping our general overall mental health and well-being. Nicci, we're just about running. Oh no, we've got a few more minutes. Yeah, I can keep talking. Excellent.
No, I was about to say with the software, there is an app that Amanda Johnson and her team developed with people that, because she comes from Tasmania, and a few of her
Yes.
cohort actually committed suicide, and she's developed this app that you can, on a scale of 1 to 5, just flick your friend and say, if they say how are you, and you're not feeling well and you can't articulate it, that you can say like a
Yes.
2, and that triggers off something. So you put 5 of your
Yes.
closest friends, and you maybe don't even have to say anything. If you just send them like a 2, they know they have to pick up the phone and phone.
Yeah.
So talking about apps available today and the difference that it makes, because it is confronting for people to admit to people they're not feeling well, because they go, what's the matter with you? Because if you don't,
and you
if
can't describe that. It's just
that's it.
It's a black darkness full of pain, and that's hard to describe when you're in that place.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you, Nicci, having some sort of app that will help convey just how you're feeling and get you some help quickly, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, look, and I mean, in sort of closing on the mental health, I always, what I want to say to men is, you think this is the end of your pain, but it's the beginning of insurmountable pain. And I know I know people that are down that road, they don't have the capacity to think of it. But before you even open that door to think, this is an option for you, because you do actually have to open the door to go, this is something I'm contemplating. So when you're opening that door, bear the thought that what you're leaving behind is just an ongoing agony for people to deal with it. So if that can stop one person out there today to go further on their journey of thinking to end their life as a solution, I hope that stops him to think, let's rather get help and talk to someone.
Yeah, because it is the family, and I know the pain that you had to walk through after that time, and that pain is unnecessary if we make it easier for people in dark places, and the people that are opening that door to make a second decision, have a second thought at that point, because we can't afford to lose any more people to suicide, and we particularly can't afford to lose any more good men to suicide. And I say that because oftentimes these men are amazing, intellectual, forward-thinking, emotionally intelligent men that just feel like they can't go on and there's no other option.
No, it's terrible.
I'm so grateful that we were able to broach the suicide subject today. I know that it's difficult for you, and I really appreciate that you've done this. Just in closing, I want to finish the interview off with how people can connect with you, where they can find out about your robots, and where they will find out the differences between the robots that your company has.
Toni, thank you. So they can reach out to me. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on all social media. I've got Twitter at Exaptec. I'm on Instagram at Exaptec, and otherwise Nicci@exaptec.com.au. And if you go onto my website, there's a contact us, and that will also reach me. So I welcome any inquiries, and anyone just wanting to explore and just understand robotics more, I'm more than happy to chat to them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been on Nicci's website heaps of times, and I get stuck on there looking at, oh goodness me, wouldn't that be fun to have around the house? From a working woman's perspective, I'm looking for the day when we have robot housekeepers that can, mop and vacuum and all the rest of it. But if you go onto Nicci's website, what I'm trying to say is that you can, all the whole range of the robots that they have available is there, but there's also really wonderful descriptors that tell you exactly how the robot is used, what it's for, and what its capability and capacity is. And that's just the basic information about that particular robot in that particular range. And my understanding from talking to Nicci is that there is capacity in Exaptec to do things that are outside of the scope. So if you've got a question, if you jump on the website and see something, oh gosh, I wonder if it would do blah, 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 then I encourage you to reach out to Nicci and use her wisdom and knowledge around robotics to try and solve whatever problem it is that you're trying to solve in your company. There's phenomenal scope in manufacturing. There's phenomenal scope in health, mental health, and medicine. And then there's all the other stuff in between. Nicci, just before we go, are most of your robots imported to Australia, or are you doing some of part of the manufacturing here? How does that work for Exaptec?
We did start some manufacturing, Toni, but when Anton passed away, that stopped. So yes. I import all the robots at this point in time. So the software development is, I've got a team of people in Australia who assist me with that if someone needs something specific. And and otherwise, what I don't have keep on the floor here myself, I just order in. I've got relationships with all my suppliers.
And just another curious question that's hit my mind. Do they come ready assembled? Are they like a whole unit when they arrive? Or they are? And then you've just got to put the program in and test and check that they're ready to go.
So everything's programmed. What we generally do once a shipment arrives in Australia is we unpack everything, we test it, we switch it on, we make sure it works. So if you buy something from me, you will notice the box has been opened. It's because we actually test and make sure that it's, it's not an off-the-shelf product that you go to Harvey and you're just plucking it off the shelf. It's normally shipped to someone from our office. And so we ensure that everything's ready and it's working by the time we send it to them.
Nicci, do you and the team go out and check that the robot is running in the way that it's anticipated to run?
Look, Toni, generally, once we've done it, I checked it here, and there's been no flag or anything. It's. I'm trying to think if I've ever had
ready to go.
It's ready to go, and once it's there, I've never. And then generally what we do is we take our clients through a bit of a setup process. So depending on what robot solution they've invested in. So the QT, when you buy that from us, that's 2 hours of support that you can, we talk you through the curriculum, how you can change, because you can actually add and change to the curriculum. Although there is one already there, it's very easy you can put whatever you want to on it. And the same with the TEMI. The other telepresence solutions are pretty easy. Like you just plug them in and off you go. But the TEMI has got some other things that we take our clients through, like a bit of an hour induction, just to, it's just a Zoom call. Like this is what you do there, and it's very quick. But they generally you unplug, you put on, switch on, ready to use. Like it's I think people have this.
That is amazing.
It must be so complex. It's not. It's actually quite simple.
It's not. It's just unpack, plug in, and off you go.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
I know.
Here's me thinking, there must be some sort of process. I'm really glad that I asked that.
No, you just plug it in and off you go. Switch it on, put your username in. There's security obviously that you have to do, but once you've done that, then so.
Nicci, thank you so much for your time this morning on Radio Toni Every Day Business. It's been a divine pleasure having you on the show. I've been looking forward to this interview for weeks, and I'm so glad that we've been able to tell the audience about your robotics company and their capacity to solve things within people's home life, business life, etc. I'm excited to see where you go in the next 5 years. I'll be watching on from the sidelines. Nicci, thank you so much for coming on Radio Toni today, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
Thank you, Toni. Thanks for inviting. It's been an absolute pleasure.
The pleasure's been all mine. And wonderful listeners, for those of you that have been listening online, you will get the links to Nicci and her robotics company. If you haven't and you're not online, just jump onto radiotoni.com and you'll find links to Nicci's information as well. We will be back next week with another interview, and that's your lot for this week. Thank you so much, Nicci, and bye for now.
Thanks, Toni. Bye.